Muscling. I am here with the German giant, Gunter Schlierkamp. Gunter, how you been?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Gunter, it's been a long time since you stepped on a bodybuilding stage. As a matter of fact, what year was the last time you ever guest posed, competed, stepped on a bodybuilding stage in posing trunks? Do you remember when that was?
Yes, 2006.
Where was that?
Actually, it was 2006. It was at the Olympia, and then afterwards I guest posed in Canada.
And Russia.
Right? Oh, Russia! Right there we go. I totally forgot. Was you Dorian and stuff? It was 2010.
2010. Yeah. Was that the last time you performed?
Actually, yes, sir. Yeah.
What part of Germany are you from?
Well, I'm obviously near Düsseldorf in the city called Olfen. It's a very small town. At the time I grew up there were about 8,000 people living. But now, obviously, it's a really fast-growing area, so they probably have doubled already that amount. But it's really still considered a village or a small town.
I gotta imagine you became a bodybuilder because of maybe somebody by the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger. How did this happen? Is that true?
Yeah, it is actually true.
How did you become a bodybuilder?
Well, I was about 12 years old, so all my friends were older, and they got into they had little single dumbbells at home, and then we watched actually one day Conan the Barbarian. It just came out in 1982. I was 12 years old, and so we were sitting there one afternoon. It was we all had summer break and stuff, and I said, let's watch a video. So somebody got it on at the time was it VHS? I think it was a beta. They had beta at the time too. But anyway, it just came out. So this guy somehow got a black copy, I guess. And we watched it at his home, and so I was just fascinated how you can build and develop your body. So that's how I got into weightlifting, and I rented right away a couple of dumbbells and started lifting at home.
You're on the taller side of things, so did it take you a long time to fill out the frame?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I always consider that this, it's like if somebody who is about 5'6", 5'8", puts 20 pounds of muscle, and then you put the same amount of muscle on somebody who is 6'2" or 6'3", it definitely shows on the shorter body or smaller body way more muscle and development than it shows on a 6 foot 2 or 3 frame. So
tell us how you became a professional. What show did you win? Like the German championships? Or?
Well, I went first. I did the junior. I won 7 shows in a row, and won the international German championship at 18 years old. I waited 2 years. At 20, I did the German junior championship and the junior world champion. Won them both. And then at 22, I went and won the men's heavyweight division in the German heavyweight and then the European championship. And a year later, I won the Mr. Universe already at 23, and then I became a pro. But I wanted to do all amateur shows and win the Mr. Universe, a big one, to become a pro. So
yeah, it sounded like you had a pretty impressive rise because being a taller bodybuilder, you have to beat a lot of smaller guys. Which of those contests do you remember the most? Like, who did you beat that had a name and you thought, man, I just beat so-and-so?
Well, it's like on a professional level, obviously it was Ronnie.
We'll get to that.
Who was in that? I mean, Jean-Pierre Fuchs was that year in Mr. Universe. Yeah, and he was from Switzerland, and then actually there was the number 2 guy from Netherlands who failed at the time the doping tests, and he failed the test. So, and he was second. So Peter, and then no, not Hansel. Who was the other German guy? Taller guy too. So he fell from 3rd to 2nd. I win. The guy who was 2nd, he actually dropped out because he was positive and failed the test, and then some other one moved up to the 2nd part.
So let's talk about moving up. Your first pro show, when and where was it?
Wow, man, it was in 1994 in Atlanta. Yeah. And you were second runner-up to Dorian Yates. He tore that year's bicep, and actually everybody was thinking that you should have made it. It's like your condition was excellent.
And so where did you find yourself in that show? This is your first big one. What did you think about it?
I was like, oh my God, I'm getting lost here, because I thought I looked okay, but for some reason, maybe of my height, I wasn't really, you kind of have to, I noticed you have to be rounder and fuller. So obviously with my height at the time being one of the tallest, and you're standing next to Kevin and you and Dorian, all this stuff, I said it was my goodness, I have to do a lot of work to fill out the frame to be that round and appear on stage pretty much.
You did. You actually came in the middle of like the mass monsters, because we had Jean-Pierre Fuchs, we had Dorian Yates, we had was Marcus Rule there yet?
No, he wasn't yet.
But we had Paul Dillette was there.
Yeah.
So you had some very big company in terms of size.
Yeah.
94 was the beginning. But what I think you're most notorious for was actually beating the reigning, defending Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman, in Louisiana at the GNC Championships. What year was that?
2002.
That was 2002. So Ronnie had already been Mr. Olympia for a good 4 or 5 years.
Yes, yeah.
And this was history, because it had never happened before that a reigning Mr. Olympia was beaten on stage. I remember when you actually won the show, Kevin Levrone came out and jumped into your arms.
Yes.
And I think Kevin was almost more excited than you were, because the significance of what it was you just accomplished. Were you aware of what you had just accomplished?
Actually, not at that time, no. I wasn't. And actually, till the moment that really happened, I never thought it actually could happen. If you know what I'm saying, I say, because he just won 3 weeks before the Olympia, and then obviously thinking about going to another show, and then I thought in the meantime he probably comes in dialed in 3 weeks, because a lot of things can obviously change in 3 weeks. And I never expected it, but
you
it happened.
5th place at that Olympia, right? 5th place?
5th place, yeah.
So
and then it was a standing ovation and stuff, yeah.
So who was between you and Ronnie?
It was it not Victor Dexter?
Right?
Victor Dexter, and who else? It was Kevin.
Was
Wasn't
Jay?
it?
No?
Jay didn't compete that year. Victor, who was in front of me?
There's a few guys.
Chris. Chris might have.
Chris beat you at the Olympia?
I might have. That year I was 5th. I think he was 4th.
I think only thing people will remember is you beating Ron. Was that $100,000 payday that weekend?
Yeah, or at the when I beat Ronnie, yeah.
That was $100,000. That was unheard of at that time.
Yeah. Well, obviously the only thing that paid more, I think, was Arnolds and the Olympia,
Right.
And then the GNC show of strengths, they wanted to build it really up like the Arnolds Classic, but it never appeared to, get the people and crowd. I see. At the time, they thought they had too many big shows.
Yeah.
And that's why.
How were things for you? How was life for you before you got 5th in Olympia? Because clearly, you were at the back of the pack. There was a couple times you weren't even in the top 10.
Yeah.
And then suddenly 1 year you wound up at 5th place, and then 3 weeks later you're beating Mr. Olympia. How did that change the economy of your life at the time?
Oh well, it was obviously crazy. I mean, it's like you couldn't go anywhere without people like
Especially
attacking.
at the FIBO in Germany.
That was actually then also Arnold's Classic was ridiculous. You couldn't even go to the bathroom without people taking a picture of you when you take a pee.
Yeah.
So it was quite wild, yeah, and unexpected. And I was I put it this way: it can get to it can overgrow your head. I don't think that I ever anything let get to my head, but I think it can overgrow, because all of a sudden then everything comes out, and you weren't, before it was okay and it was great, but it was manageable. Then at one point you felt like you get it gets out of control,
At the time you were married to Carmen?
Yes.
So that was a little different, because there weren't a lot of bodybuilders that were actually married and being very successful during that time.
Yeah.
You were kind of having to juggle a life in America and also a life in Germany, and also having to manage your relationship with your wife. Was it more complicated after that?
Well, it was a little bit actually. Well, it created a little, obviously, issue with the marriage too. Obviously, my wife, all of a sudden, my ex-wife, she kind of like saw how people got drawn to me, and she felt like she almost like was at first next to me, and then obviously she stepped away. I mean, she kind of got pushed farther away, and that obviously at the end ruined the marriage and relationship.
We see how that can happen, but you rebounded successfully, because you were very popular in the magazines. You're a cover guy, sponsored by Joe Weider. I believe you were sponsored the whole time.
Yes.
You were bodybuilding through Joe.
I signed with Weider the first contract in 1998, beginning 1998.
You love the big German guys.
Yeah. Well, can I say it's like it seems like every time he puts me in. Joe at the time they're looking for sell magazines too.
Yeah,
and it
and
seems
you were
like for some
selling
reason it's sell.
Did you do anything else besides the bodybuilding business at the time?
I did do a lot of work and promotional stuff for Walmart at the time because Rita had a glucosamine chondroitin supplement and stuff, and me and a friend of mine, actually Brian, who also worked that business and stuff. So we did a lot of shows and shareholder meetings, and we actually helped growing that business a lot more too. So that was kind of really successful at the time too.
I mean, if they had social media, it would have been blown through the roof.
It was, yeah.
You were outside the box, and then you started appearing in some commercials and movies too.
Yeah, I did altogether 12, 13 TV commercials. Actually, one that did really well. The car doesn't even exist anymore. It was Saturn. Yeah. And the only thing that I really did, I did a double bicep and go like this. And then at the time, Arnold just became governor, and the director goes like this, man, it's like that. He looks like the governor. So anyway, because obviously at the time the double bicep and I think a little bit the look, the accent and everything, but it went to Reconsider Strength. So I was a powerful guy, and they went at the time to Lance Armstrong, who actually just won another, I think, Grand Prix, and they went through him, how he finished through the finish line, and they say Reconsider Strengths. So there's a power, you can go with powerful engines like a Ferrari, whatever, Lamborghini, or you go with a smaller engine, long distance, and you have the power from that,
So it's an interesting transition because a lot of people thought muscles were fashionable. You had Hulk Hogan, you had The Rock, you had Arnold, but there weren't a whole lot of guys. Lou Ferrigno, and then it was then there was you.
Yeah.
On a smaller scale, but it still was crossing over. You were crossing over into mainstream, and of course you also had your home company of Germany.
Yeah.
You had a country behind you over there. How did they receive you when you went back to Germany?
Oh, obviously it was crazy. Everywhere where you go, people celebrated, and still to this day, even though I'm not doing much on Instagram and stuff, or be in the main sports, like you obviously always out there at the Mr. Olympia and stuff. I'm not so much, but people always, every time you post, you do a comeback, and you're so great, and it was the best ever. You should have had that Olympia. So this is now what we're talking about. 18 years now, and it's still people talk that way, and
well,
that is
talk
really.
About it. Hold on a second. So you beat Ronnie Coleman. I would imagine after beating Ronnie, the only thing on your mind is to go back and beat him on the Olympia stage. How did you change your pursuit of that title?
And this is something most people don't know, and I don't know if Flex ever remembers, but I did a guest appearance with him once in San Jose up there, and in Fresno actually, and we talked. It was backstage, and we talked, and I said, he was the only one I ever told to, because I got in 2003. I was already getting separated from my wife pretty much, so we had some issues there. But I get a staph infection, so I was about 325 pounds, and you can actually go and ask Charles about that. How phenomenal I looked, and actually even by Ronnie being in 2003 so incredible. I mean, he bigger and everything, right? I think. I don't want to say that I might beat him, but I think I could have stand right next to him. But because of that, so I had to take antibiotics and all this stuff, and I was nights alone actually. So my wife and I already started flaring up, so I could not even lay on my leg.
Yeah.
So that's how bad it was. So it's even a turn and stuff. It's I don't cry fast, but I mean it depends if I get emotional. What I'm saying. For normally with pain, I'm very pain tolerant, but that it brought tears to my eye. I mean,
and
it was ridiculous.
Before you beat Ronnie.
It was in preparation for the show.
Right.
So it was 6 weeks out. So then I had to go on antibiotics. I dropped 25 pounds of muscle pretty much in 2 weeks. So, and then 4 weeks out, there was no way that I could get that fullness and back to that. And Charles, he was desperate too. I was nobody really ever knew that.
So let's fast forward. So you beat Ronnie at the GNC. Now you have a chance to go back to the Mr. Olympia and beat him on the big stage. What was your mindset? What happened? We're in 2005, 7?
It was this was actually 3 when that happened.
Yeah, you had the staph infection. After you beat him at GNC,
yeah,
you went back to the Olympia again.
Yeah, that was that year.
That was the year you
That
got
was the year. So, and I was, like I said, everything was going great until that happens. And to this day, I really wonder what or how I could have gotten. Maybe I would have been second because Ronnie looked that year really good too. But I'm saying it's I think I could have been really compatible because I think it was even an improvement compared to 2002. because I still thought that I was heavy, and I looked at 325. Remember that cover that I ever did? We had my hair sleeked back. Even Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he came back in one time and said, "Dude, that was incredible." I was 325, but my shoulders were like this freaking huge. And even Peter McGuff at the time, who did the photo shoot with Robert Reeve, you know, he was like, "Dude, it's like, this is unbelievable." Well, that year then it happened, and I just couldn't get back. It's a few weeks out. I was just happy that I competed. And when I told the story, that I, flex, that I knew I can get lean and I get crisp, or I get in a decent shape, but I knew I could not to compete in a top 3 or whatever.
Let me ask you a question. If you were competing at 325, what were you in the off season?
Oh no! I looked incredible at 325.
Oh, you're on your
so
way
I
down.
had to go down to.
Yeah.
So when I beat Ronnie, I was 302.
Wow, 302 pounds. Did you ever think you'd have to be that big to beat somebody like Ronnie?
Well, it was funny actually. I had one time a lunch with Joe, and he said, "Well, I actually think you look better at 285. I think that is a perfect weight." And I always thought for me to be appealing, doing the movie stuff, that is the way where it should stay. But there was no freaking way that weight you can compete with Ronnie and Jay, because it's like you just had to make up for that height sometimes.
So let's fast forward, man. You decide that you're going to walk away. Was there a defining moment in time when you said, "That's it, Joe, I'm out"?
My defining moment was actually 2006, that I was like, that I knew that I could not crack I wouldn't say the top 3, but I know that in 2006 for me, the hammer came. And then actually, it was a little bit early. In 2005, I placed 4th at the Olympia. And that year, actually, Arnold came backstage. And he comes right to "You should have been in the top 3. I can believe it. At least 2nd you should have gotten." And he was like, "Your posing, your symmetry." That was another year where my condition was really good. And I didn't even get that year. I placed 4th. Not one comparison with 3, 2, or 1st.
Wow. What did you think about the judging back then? I mean,
it's hard to say. I mean, I always wanted to go in shows and don't think about it. And I think always, it's like, there's a reason. It's like maybe, I don't know if they see something that I don't see or other people don't see. I don't know. But it seemed like that year there were another time that I was in really excellent, better condition than for sure in 2003 and 4. And I still couldn't crack it. And then it was like, it's like maybe that is just as far as you can go.
Did you quit because that was as far as you can go in your mind?
No. And then in 2006, there comes a time when all of a sudden, you know what I mean? You just know, no matter what you do, it's not anymore as is before. And you know what? I think for me, it was always, I'm gonna get to the point, you have to be honest with yourself. I say, you're just competing to be on it and do it for the fans, or is it maybe time to think about maybe move on, have family, kids, and all the stuff? So
how old were you?
36, yeah.
Was that when you met your now current wife, Kim Lyons?
Yeah.
You met her the last year competition?
Oh, actually, it was about 2004. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got married when?
2007.
And you had your baby Jake?
Yes, it was 2010, yeah.
2010, so he's now 10?
He turns 10 June 3rd.
How is it being a dad now?
Oh, it's amazing. Well, it's like obviously, if you would have been at the hospital, so he was born at Beverly Hills Cedars Saturday night, and so it was 4:30 in the morning. And if you looked at Kim and me, it looked like I would have had given birth. My God, I was like, I don't know what happened. Is like, but the funny thing is, so if you were there and you kind of hold that for your first time, I always said, man, this is the biggest trophy in your life, man. It's like nothing. That if your heart is in the right place, I always say, and you kind of like really involved, I tell you, this is magical. That's where they say this. It's like, for me, that was a great experience.
And your wife's a former fitness professional.
Yeah,
right,
Kim, yeah.
She was a trainer. Are you training too? Because I thought you were training some people for a while.
I do. We had a gym, obviously. We grounded Bionic Body, and well, we had the gym for 5 years until the landlord wanted to come up, and we had that right at the beach. So he wanted to up the lease and stuff. So we did great for a while, but we still had to put a lot of our own money in there. And at some point, all of a sudden, we have 100 yards down there, F45, Mark Wahlberg and celebrities doing promotion. So you can compete with the corporate companies. And then on top of it, we had to renew our lease. So, and I said, listen, we cannot pay ourselves to make money. You know, it's like it doesn't work. So that, you know, to found the gym and pay the. Oh, I don't wait for that.
So, what are we doing today? What's life like in the Schlierkamp house?
Well, the life in the Schlierkamp house is so. Kim and I always walk Jake in the morning or down to school and all this stuff. We have, because of Bionic Body, we have a Bionic Body gear, what is about in 2,500 stores, where we have a licensing deals with a company. They're one of the biggest steel importers. So we have kettlebells, plyo boxes, resistant band workouts we can do with bands. They go up to 100 pound each, from like a 5 pound band all the way to 100. And little weight bags and all this stuff, you know. So for personal training, home training, and just some of the gyms actually get our slam balls because the quality of our products is really good. So that's where we got into when we developed our gym Bionic Body. We created a line Bionic Body gear, and that is actually doing really well. So
how much are you weighing now?
Well, Sean, I still go up and down. I'm about 263.
Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? I mean, because you look great.
Well, no, I'm actually doing good, but like you know, when it depends really how I train. Sometimes I just train and go up. You know, I'm like 270, and then I go the other time on scale, I'm like 263. So for me, like 7 pounds up and down, almost 10 pounds is like not even a problem.
Are you in the gym on a regular basis or just hit and miss?
I try to be on a regular basis, at least 4 times a week, and I try to hit every muscle part once a week. Yeah.
So you're still kind of like living the life.
Yeah, I do actually. It's like just because, well, I do this since I was really like a kid, like a 12-year-old.
I haven't seen you at very many bodybuilding shows.
Yeah.
Is it something that's not high on your list of priorities, or have you
Well,
outgrown it?
it's like, I don't know. I think probably, well, it's hard to, well, if I would be more involved in the Mr. Olympia like you are or something, I think I probably would. I enjoy going there. You know, it's nice to see, even though for me and Kim, we feel like a lot of things have changed. You know, I don't know how well a lot of people talk about the good old times. It feels like when you go get away for a little while, I mean, I know you, I know Kevin and all these people, but there's a lot of competitors first that I didn't know anymore. So you kind of really have to keep up to date. Of course, I know Phil and Kai Green, you know.
Those guys don't compete anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's another thing. So what I'm saying, all of a sudden you have a whole generation of new people that I've never met, you know.
So, is it safe to assume that if we invite you to this year's Olympia, we'll see you there at the Legends booth?
Yes. Oh, yeah, guys? I will be there.
We got a formal invitation this
Cool.
September in Las Vegas. So, did you catch last year's Mr. Olympia or the year before last?
The year before, I did just some little bit of web work for Team Andro in Germany. It's actually, well, they used to work with, who did they work with? I think Marcus used to do that before. I think Marcus now does more his own stuff too.
When you look at the bodybuilders today, are you inspired, or is it different, or is what's?
Well, I put it this way: if I would be a kid and I would look at the bodybuilders today, I don't know if I would be inspired like this, because I don't know. A lot of people don't think it's as attractive, and I feel like it really got to a point where you look like, man, is that actually possible? You know, it's like, it's just there's so much meat, I say, on certain bodies. I don't even know if I ever could get to that, you know. It's like, I don't know if I would actually be into bodybuilding. Like I said, I got inspired through Arnold. I just liked the way the physique looked. He looked to me like, I almost said, a big muscular athlete. And now, well, everything looks big they look more square, I feel like. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. And last year or the year when I went and Sean Roden went, I felt like they went back to really, you know, to get the shape of the physique a little bit more.
Did you hear they're bringing back the women's bodybuilding to Olympia week? It's been gone for about 5 or 6 years.
Yes, I noticed. Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Well, it's like, if you want my honest opinion, yeah. It's a sport, so some women love it. For me as a man, I would watch them guys. You know what I mean? So for me, women out, I don't need to see women, they are that big and muscular. But if they are passionate about it and they love it, it's great. You know, it's the same as, you know, like other sport that I don't care about. It's like, well, I don't care about that to see, but hey, if people love it and they like to see it, it's okay. It's good.
How about the people that love you? Where can they find you? Do you have a website? Do you have your social media handle?
Yeah, I see. You know, it's Gunter Schlierkamp, obviously on Instagram, and I have Gunter Schlierkamp fan page on Facebook. I have actually two. There's a Mr. Universe, and there's just the Gunter Schlierkamp. So the Gunter Schlierkamp is actually the one where I mostly go.
Are you active on social media?
Yeah, well, I go not as like every day and post 3 times. Not as you. I follow you, by the way. I have to count. You know, you're pretty much my biggest update. But well, sometimes you kind of, it's just, well, you know, sometimes it is certain people's thing and some people's don't. So for me, it's like I grew up more through I still feel about more picking up a magazine and stuff instead of being always on social media. Right. And well, Kim and I, we have a rule because, well, if we go out and stuff and we just leave the phone away because I feel like it can disturb, because I put it this way, I see that sometimes with my son, you know, if he gets a little bit more digital, and today a lot of kids are on what is it, little iPads or phones they have already. You talk to him and he's not even there. What I mean, they get very monotone. It's very here. You can feel like you cannot have a conversation, you know, man to man, you know, woman to woman. It's like they're always on there. I have to do this quick. I have to do this quick. Yeah, it is distracting, and I feel like, well, I don't know if it's good. That's what I'm saying.
Which direction you pointing your son? Are you pointing him to athletics or?
Well, I try to let him get a little bit himself into what he likes, and well, he's played some tennis. We have him in golf. We actually put him in some baseball, and he actually can whack the ball like crazy because of him. This, you know, like they started T-ball when he was 5, and that was so funny. They had like 15 guys. All of a sudden, at the end of the season, there were only 7 left, and they still won. But because he could whack the ball so good, and the coach, they wanted to have him back the next year. He's not into team sports. He likes single sports. So we put him in tennis and golf, and he seems like he's very, very coordinated. He just needs to be the head. You can have all the genetics in the world with, like, because Kim is obviously always being a gymnast and stuff. He's very athletic, and you can tell he's even a 6-pack. And believe me, we're not feeding him only lettuce and tomatoes and a little bit chicken breast.
Well, I'm sure your fans still want to know, can they find you at Gold's Gym Venice? Do you still make the pilgrimage out that way?
I do once in a while, yes, actually, but not that much more. Now all of a sudden they ask me for a $40 inch. I always could in free. Now they tell me you have to pay $40.
It's the end times. It's the end times.
It's like Charles always say, just tell them you want to see me, then you're fine. I said, well, I see the last time I did actually it worked.
All right, Gunther, it's good catching up on where are they now. We'll see you in September at the Mr. Olympia if we get over this COVID-19 epidemic.
Yeah, I hope so. And by the way, do you know that you must be pretty special? You know why? It's our anniversary today.
Anniversary? Well,
today, March 18th. 13 years.
13 years. Yeah. Happy anniversary. Go home and lock yourself in the house.
I know. We are trying to get my wife. We wanted to go to Cut in Beverly Hills. Have you ever been there? No. It's like in that Beverly hotel there, where they filmed actually Pretty Women. Really good steaks and stuff, but anyway, they closed everything down.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully we get past this thing and we see you at the Joe Weider 55th Olympia weekend in Las Vegas.
Awesome, man.
All right, for Digital Muscle.
Cool.
Gunter Schlierkamp.